Brad Granda. Welcome.
Are we on?
We're on.
Wow. It'd be nice if I knew we were starting.
We are starting right now. We can start however we want. There is no official beginning other than I still am trying to find a smooth way to say, Brad, you're on deck.
This is fantastic.
All right, good.
We should preface this by saying, put the children aside and out of the room because there might be a lot of cursing during this one. I mean, I'm just saying. So, Seth, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so wish me luck.
Okay, so there's one. There is a Seth name drop right out of the gates. First 30 seconds. He'll be pleased.
Yes.
Now, but we must remember he might end up watching this with his son in the living room. Could be.
That's all right.
I'm just going to have to, earmuffs.
Yeah, earmuffs
right?
a couple
I think his son's old enough to understand that. Well, welcome, man. How are you?
This is unbelievable. I can't believe not that I can't believe we accomplished this, but this is really cool.
We're doing it.
We're doing it.
I'm glad you feel that way. Brad, you are the Senior Vice President and Managing Director of our agency here, the Herman Agency, and we've known each other for almost 24 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of which we had the first 4 years, and then let's call it a 16-year hiatus. Yeah. And then we've been back together.
But in that hiatus, it's not like we every now and again there was a run-in.
Yeah, absolutely.
A call, a run-in, see you somewhere.
Well, it's been great sharing the last 4 years with you here, and we talk about this all the time because people watching this or listening, they may not realize this, but we are often hanging out here after hours, having dinner together. Our families must be.
Last night.
Yeah, last night is a perfect example. The two of us sitting here.
Texting Seth.
That's two. There's two. Having a glass of wine. We've been eating a lot of Longhorns lately. I think we need to shift in a different direction.
We should.
It's getting a little worn out there.
Agreed.
But it's always a pleasure to spend time with you. I love you like a brother. We've really developed a nice relationship over the last 4 years that I value a lot.
Feeling is certainly mutual.
Great. So what better way to embark on our podcasting journey together than to have a toast to our friendship, our business efforts together, and our overall life. So,
and I have a feeling I know what this is.
Look, what does it look like?
Well, for the average viewer, it looks like we're about to embark on a glass of urine.
It sure does, doesn't it? I brought this from home. I made sure that I brought it in a jar because it was actually as it comes over from the other side of the Atlantic in a plastic bottle
wrapped in tape,
newspaper and tape. And I opened it this morning and I felt that I would put it into something suitably odd.
So this hasn't even been cracked into yet.
Haven't tasted it. So you and I are going to try it together for the first time.
Wow. And this is
just a moment. Let me make sure that
that's pretty hefty.
That's a hefty choot right there.
Choot. Here we go.
We're going to give it a whirl. I assure.
I'm going to let you explain what this is because I'll butcher it one way or another.
Hang on a second. I realize I got to scoot. I got to stand.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. All right. Sorry for stepping away from the microphone. And now we sit. So, as you know, and some people know, my wife is from Russia. And in my travels to Russia, or her side of our family's travels to here, it always involves an exposure to this beverage, which is Samagon. And Samagon is essentially Russian moonshine, for lack of better terminology. It's an alcohol that they make in the country, and people make it themselves out of any number of ingredients. It's usually, as you know, sort of has a vodka-like quality, but I actually find that it can be a little bit smoother and more interesting, and it's part of the cultural experience that I have had there. And of course, I brought a number of versions back that we've shared. So this is the newest iteration of...
we've had some serious different varieties.
Yes.
I think we had one, that I could have started my car with.
I remember that one.
It was pretty brutal.
That one was rough.
Yeah.
There's been some real nice smooth ones, and there's
100%.
been some rough ones. Now, this one apparently is made from macadamia nuts.
Wow. Okay.
Hence the color. So let's give it a try. See what we think here. Cheers.
Cheers, my brother.
Yep. Cheers. Okay. To podcasting. Here we're podcasting.
No, we're not shooting this, right? I'm just going to take a fucking whack at it. I'm not... Because that's pretty stiff.
Yeah, it's a stout one. Maybe we do half or something like that.
I get a lot of vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
Back end had a little bit of fire on it, but then it went away relatively quickly.
Right.
That's really smooth.
That's nice.
That's really smooth.
Can you taste the nuttiness as well too?
Absolutely. And it's almost like an alcoholic cream soda.
Yes.
Right?
That is exactly the perfect description. Perfect
That's
description.
wild.
Yeah, it does. It has a cream
Yeah.
soda kind of taste to
It
it.
certainly does.
I'm going to finish mine.
I'm with you.
Yeah, all right, let's do it. How do you like the
That's
glasses?
nice. Love it. Did these have to go back home or?
Yeah, I gotta bring them back home. My wife lent them out to me this morning. She's like, you can take them, bring them back.
Understood.
So, all right, well, that was enjoyable. And so here we begin. And I was thinking about where we would start because there's a million things that we can talk about. We sat here last night talking about a million things, and so we can just pick up. But one of the things that I really appreciate about you is you are very culinarily adventurous. You have a very open mind when it comes to food and wine and alcohol, whatever it is. You have a real genuine appreciation for it and an absolute open mind to anything. We've been out to a number of restaurants together. I can think of the one that we went to in Boston that Seth recommended. And
fantastic.
with all those little appetizers and all that interesting stuff. That was one of our first really fun, delicious meals together. But
I think I remember the name of it. The Salty Girl.
The Salty Girl in Boston. Yeah, that was a wonderful
Where we
meal.
ate, like literally, you ate out of cans, like sardine cans and everything, but we ordered, we had to order 12.5 things on that menu.
We did. And I think the last one was fried chicken and waffles.
It was fried lobster and waffles.
That's right. That's right.
That was dessert.
It was. And then we walked home in the snow.
Yes.
Yeah.
But remember that night. That night started with us leaving the hotel, and it was a shit show outside. Like, it was disgusting. It was nasty, typical Boston weather, rainy, cold.
Yes.
We had umbrellas from the hotel we were in. We walked to the restaurant. We left the restaurant. Literally, we were in that restaurant for, I want to say 3 hours.
I think you're right.
And walked out to this, and I've seen snow a handful of times in my life. Mm-hmm. The only time I've really seen snow is from work and traveling. But never have I walked out into snow where it was this gorgeous layer of fresh powder that, it was so late in the night because we were there for so long.
Right.
The cars hadn't driven through it yet. Nobody walked on it. And if you remember, after we crossed the street, I literally turned around and took a picture of my footsteps because they were the first footsteps in like 2 inches of fresh powder, and it was just unbelievable.
I remember, and you're right, because when we were on our way, it was rainy. It was sort of like still
it was horrible.
The cars driving by, a lot of noise and what have you. And then when we went out, it was one of those beautiful situations that happens anywhere it snows. It was incredibly quiet and calm, like all the sound was gone except just that beautiful quietness.
There was nobody out.
Incredible. That was a great night.
That was awesome.
Really great. And that night we tried a lot of things. And so tying back to my observation is this adventurousness and love of cuisine and food that you have. And I'm curious, where did that come from for you? Was that something that started in your family or that you learned and were exposed to later in life?
100% my old man.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. And it's something that I've passed on to my kids, right? But when I was a kid, we ate everything. And, sure, being an Italian household and every Sunday was, that was your pasta and sauce day where, mom or grandma was cooking it from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
And did that happen in your family all the time?
Every Sunday. And it was always at my Nana and Pop's house. Mm-hmm. And it was always at my mom's side.
Right.
who's got 2 sisters. Each sister has 3 or 4 or 5 kids. So we all would go to my grandmother's house, my Nana's house, and they'd be cooking, and it was an all-day affair. We were, all of the cousins were together, not being stereotypical, but that's just the way it was in this household. All the moms and the grandmoms were cooking and getting everything ready. The kids were all playing. We were in the pool. We were here. We were there. And all the guys were in the back room. My Nana had a back room in her house.
Right.
That was the card room. And that's where the guys were. And that's where the dads and the grandpas and the uncles and everybody were. And it was a closed-in room, not a window in sight. Everybody's in there with their cigars and their cigarettes, and as kids, we would walk in there and like literally, it was a fog machine in there. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if every single one of them would have died from cancer from being in that room for a day. But we would venture in there because Dad would call, "Hey, Brad, give me a beer, give me a scotch," and we'd go in there and hand over a scotch or a beer and. They'd throw us $5. It was like a tip. Like we were waiters.
So the kids were like the waiters.
We were 5 years old, bringing drinks in there and getting tipped by everybody.
That's so great.
So that was a Sunday thing. But Dad always had us adventuring into different things. I mean, the variety of stuff that I've eaten quail and dove and alligator and rabbit and snake and everything right. Under the sun. And a lot of that stuff, we would go out and hunt.
Yeah?
Sure.
With your dad?
Uh-huh. Yeah, we had BB guns and we'd shoot whatever we could shoot that we could eat.
Right.
But it was just something we did. And I think I had this, I think I mentioned this to you last night. Fishing, obviously. Fishing was a gigantic thing in our family when I was a kid. Crabbing every weekend. So we grew up from him learning just to... You ate everything. You tried everything.
Right.
And I mean, my kids are now 10. Jake will be 12 in April. Victoria's 10. My kids will eat squingil, calamari, raw oysters, everything under the sun. And it's just something that my wife, forget about it. You got no shot. But as far as them, they'll eat anything. And it's just been passed on. And hopefully they will continue that, and I'm sure they will.
That's so interesting to me because it reminds me of one more commonality that you guys share, or that you and I share. Both of us, okay, so my adventure for eating cuisine, same thing, came from my dad. Different avenues, right? But he was the one that opened our eyes to food and wine and appreciating those things in life. And, if I were to back up a step, you and I share a lot of similar experiences. We both have and had fathers who were larger than life. Like your dad, you've told me a lot about your dad. Your dad was larger than life. My dad was larger than life. Your dad sounds like he had a real zest for life and shared that with you guys that you absorbed, right? Same with us. We can go down the list of the good things, right? And the bad things, even to the fact that both of their lives were ended similarly after a struggle with cancer. And I'm constantly reminded by these things that you and I share that are very similar, and not to get into like the dark or deep at this moment, but the food thing is, I'm glad to hear it came from your dad as it did with mine. And it's just, once that gets in you, you can't get it out of you, right? Right. It's very hard to, we both like to focus on fitness and riding bikes and taking care of ourselves, and I think
you never know it, right?
But it's true, and we both go through these varying times when we're like really on it or really not on it. But I think both of us have the same thing where we come back to there's something really special about enjoying a good meal, and whether it's a nice bottle of wine or a beer or Samagon, or whatever it is, there's something special about the act of sharing a nice meal together and enjoying that experience that I don't know about you. I don't find that in a lot of other experiences.
Well, I mean, a lot of my life childhood is surrounded by food. I mean, it didn't, again, Italian household on both sides. Both of my sides of my family are from Sicily. And it didn't matter if we were going to my nana and pops on my mom's side or my grandfathers on my father's side. But the amount of food that was served from the second you walked in the door. I mean, again, it's the old school grandma that's like, oh, Brad, you got to eat. Brad, you got to eat. Try this, try that. And it's 100 different dishes. You know, Christmas Eve at my grandmother and grandfather's house was out of this world. Like we always laughed about it later on in life. With like, why didn't this side of the family open a restaurant?
Right.
I mean, seriously, it's out of control. The amount of food, the quality of the food, and I mean, just the love and the preparation of it all from my grandmother was bar none.
It's interesting, you know, you say, you know, the love and the preparation, and there's so many things about what you just said that are interesting to me. Number one, this Italian tradition of Sunday dinner and the whole family getting together every Sunday, and this ritual. I think for any of us that didn't grow up with that experience, I mean, I look at that and I see that as such a beautiful and valuable and wonderful thing to be able to have. And I as I'm listening to you, I'm asking myself, like, why am I not instilling that type of, you know, thing in my family at this point in time? Because I hear it and it sounds so incredible. And it's not just about the food, right? Like the food is what brings everybody together, but it's that consistent time together as a family, sharing in those moments that builds those strong bonds, and I think really builds, you know, who you are as a person growing up from that.
Well, I mean, you're not alone in that, because I say the same thing to myself all the time. You know, like, why did back then the sisters and brothers at the time, my mom and her two sisters, why were they able to get everybody together all the time? Like, nobody wavered. You were there. You showed up, period.
Right.
But yet I don't have that with my brother, or my wife doesn't have that with her two brothers. Well, they live out of state, so it's different.
Right.
But staying with our family, I don't have that with my brother right now. And to me, it's life gets in the way. You know, it's back then my dad worked his ass off. And you and I have had this conversation. We'll share it with Seth and the rest of the world right now. That's
four?
3.
No, that's 4, because I threw one in. You had 3, that's 4.
You know, he instilled in me back in the day, just work your ass off. And my grandfather, his father, his words to me every single time he saw me, you always have somebody in your family that you'll see, and every time you see them, or did see them before they passed, they always said the same thing to you. And my grandfather's was, keep your nose to the grindstone. That's all he said to me. That's not all he said to me. He always made sure he said that to me.
Right.
And that just meant head down, barrel forward, work your ass off, and the money will come, right? That's what it was. Work your ass off, the money will come. So it's gotten to that point, you know, like we're both, and me and my brother are raised the same way. So we both work our ass off. It's life getting in the way of us being able to do that. You know, he's got 3 kids. They all play soccer. You know, one's older, then he's got 2 twins that are younger. The activities take over, and it's just life gets in the way.
Yeah, and I agree. But at what point in time do we figure out, and listen, you know, we're both the same age, you know, we're both at a similar stage. I mean, you have a family that's a little bit more developed than mine, but we both have younger families, right? And we're at a similar age and at a similar point, you know, career-wise in our work trajectory, where it's like, when do we, you know, when can you slow down to put those things in? Because our parents worked hard too, right? Like your family worked hard, but they still found a way. And I don't know if it's just because we're constantly connected with technology and the phones and all this stuff. You just get moving so fast, and before you know it, it's like a month has gone by. I mean, it's already. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but it's already the beginning of February. Like January has gone by in a flash, right? And here we are. It's the beginning of February, and I feel like we're just racing right now to do everything, because we got a lot of work going on, a lot of good things going on at the agency, but so busy. But you know, listening to this, I think, God, I don't want to look back on life and feel like we missed out on the opportunities to have those special times with our families,
Well, that's something. Donna gave me a sheet of paper at the beginning of the year that she wanted me to share with my family, which I appreciated, and we did. And it was kind of like a little recap. It was like a little questionnaire of 2020, your best times, your worst times. I'm making this all up, but you get the gist. And then a 2021. And it gave you, give me 3 things of this, give me 2 things of this, and fill in the blanks.
Right.
And one of the questions was, something that you were going to improve upon in 2011. And my first one was my relationship with my brother, and talking to him more often and spending more time with him. And once all this bullshit with COVID is over and everything, and we can have a relatively normal life again, having our families together and spending, because when my kids are with his kids, even though mine are a little bit younger than his, they have a blast.
Right.
And right now they don't get to do that enough, and it's not fair to them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm seeing, my daughter she's 3, and this is the first time, and our intention is to have her in preschool in the fall. But I'm seeing now that she's ready for that interaction now. Like, I can tell. I can sense a sort of a little bit of a boredom in her. I'm starting to notice it over the last few weeks, as and it's it's COVID time, so it's tough to. Everybody's doing the best they can to provide a meaningful family experience and what have you. And I think overall we're doing well, but I see that with her right now. And, it's so important. We can do all of what we do here. We can work hard. We can be successful. We can enjoy this, have successes and failures, whatever. But at the end of the day, like at the end of your life, and I feel like I'm getting like deep here.
I don't know. I think we need a refill.
I think we do. I think we need a refill. Let me grab that. So I'm going to pour and talk. But at the end of it all, right? When you're looking around at whatever time it is that it's your final days, who do you want to be there? What do you want to be talking about? It's the time with your family and the people that you love and care about the most. And so I think the previous generations, like of your family, really understood that, right? That Italian every Sunday. Hang on one second, let me.
Well, I mean, that wasn't even a question back then, right? That's just the way it was. Period.
Right. I mean, like, that's the way it was, because that's the way they did it in the old country, and that's the way they do it here. And I think about my family, and we've talked about this. My parents separated when I was 8 or 9. And so my mom was responsible for raising my sister and I, and she worked hard, and she did everything she could. She was a great mom, and she provided such a warm household for us, and we were really a very tight unit. We were very close, and we had our own, traditions and things that we did that meant a lot to us. We didn't have Sunday dinner, like with the whole family, but we did our own things. But our experience was different, and we would have those celebrations when we'd go see my dad at the holidays and what have you. And those are the things, like if you were to say, what do you remember about your childhood growing up? I'd have to say a lot of it, again, like where we started, goes back to those times when you're together with your family, having a nice meal, whether it's the holidays or it could have just been the summer out in the backyard, whatever it was. It's those times together where everything else kind of vanishes out of the way, and you're just able to enjoy those moments. So nice.
Absolutely agree.
It reminds me of the trips to Russia. I see my wife's family, and they are very close, and to see how they interact and how they enjoy spending time together, and how they they really.
But that's old school. It's 100%
it's old school, in the backyard, in the garden, working out in everybody working together in the backyard throughout the day, and then mom pulls a dinner together, and it's just, they're magical experiences that you couldn't even possibly recreate anywhere else.
Right.
Cheers.
Salud.
Salud. I told you that when I first, you know, the Russians, right? What do they call this?
Samagon.
And when you're drinking, what's it called?
Chut-chut.
That's right.
I'm learning, see?
That's right. Chut-chut. And what's this?
Chut-chut.
Yeah, chut-chut. So the Russians, yeah, it's so great. That's their sign for let's have a little drink, you know, and chut-chut means like a little bit. Let's have a little bit. And it's such a good time because, again, it's the time of getting together and experiencing that together.
And you just shoot the shit for hours on hours and hours. And before you know it, you're downing 4 jars of that shit.
Well, and then the next thing you know, you're in the sauna, which they call the banya. So like a typical night can very well be, and I think it's stereotypical to suggest that Russians drink all the time. They really don't. But my experience has been that there's times when you do, as you do anywhere, as we are right now, right? And so many times, you have a nice dinner, you have a couple of drinks, you're talking, well, I'm talking via, Google Translate in a lot of ways.
Nice.
And then before you know it, it's 10:30, and it's like, okay, banya, which is their word for sauna. And you're in the sauna, and it's so hot, right? And they have those birch tree leaves where they, they spank you. They literally like beat you, and the smell, like they dunk them in the water, put them on your face, and you smell the smell of the birch trees.
Who's doing this while you're?
Well, it's usually my wife and I are in it. Not usually, it's always my wife and I in there together, right? And she's the one guiding me through this experience. Now, I think I told you this. The first time I went to Russia, and we went in the banya. Her dad, they have a house that they're building, and he's built out a beautiful banya in the back. So it's got like a little, you walk in the door, it's like a little house. You walk in the front door, there's a little sitting area with a couch and a fire, and then you go into the actual banya. And in Russia, the banya is not just like a steam room or a sauna where you sit. Like, that's where they bathe. At the end of the day, they bathe and wash in there, and they...
Totally separate building.
Totally separate building from the house. And at the end of that, they come out and sit outside, and the air is cool, and it's beautiful. If it's winter, they roll around in the snow and then go back in.
Oh, maron.
Oh, yeah. And the first year that we went, oh, it was so great. My wife was so hardcore. Like, banya, like, it's a thing. Like, like Sunday dinner. Like, you know the rules and you don't fuck with it. And
you said fuck before I did. I can't
no,
believe
you already said it. No, you said it in the first sentence. Yes,
Bullshit.
You said fuck. You said fuck like within like 30 seconds, right? And I remember we went in there, and she was really like, like these were rules I had to understand, right? And she was not soft with me about it. She was like, no, and you got all these buckets of water. It's very confusing. I was very overwhelmed by all the rules inside of the banya. But it's such a cool experience, and it's just one more of those things where it's just part of enjoying life and slowing down and really enjoying the process. The Samagon's great. Like,
That is good.
This is going to be the podcast where there's a lot of like quiet.
You're going to go
pauses.
home and you're going to say to Irviana, Brad said it. Because nobody's tasted this yet. She hasn't tried this yet. And
No.
you just cracked it open.
No.
So she's going to try it tonight if she hasn't already. She might have dipped her toe in while you were at work today.
She's been drinking cognac lately, so I don't think she's had this yet.
But she's going to agree. This is a alcoholic cream soda taste.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So interesting.
And this is one of the smoother ones we've had.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you brought those 2 batches back that one time, right?
Mm-hmm.
One, again, I could start my fucking car with it. The other one was fantastic. And then you had a purple one you didn't share with me. So that one must have been really good because I didn't even get any of that
it's
one.
funny. When I went in the cabinet today to get this, there's still some.
Ah.
No, there's still a good bit of the purple one.
So there's some hold back here.
I'm going to bring it. No, it's not an intentional hold. You're so funny, man. You're always like, wait, you holding out on me? You're holding out on me? Let's go back.
Hold back. I had to get an automotive term in there for Seth.
Yeah, okay.
That's 5.
That's 5. Okay. Let's go back, all right? Now that I feel like if we just keep talking about life and drinking and food, we're going to have these, like, for the viewer, these moments where we just sit and go,
Yeah, 100, absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And maybe there's nothing, maybe somebody might enjoy listening to that. I don't know. But let's go back to when we met
Oh, boy.
and where we worked
Oof.
a little bit. Like, let's talk about that experience. And I've shared this with you. Like, I still remember specific experiences with you from the very beginning. Like, I remember we're working at Zimmerman. I remember you were driving down from Jupiter.
I was.
Every day,
yep.
Right? Where your family's from, where my mother lives now. And going into that environment where it was such a an educational experience and proving ground for us, right? Like Zimmerman.
It was the whole cut your teeth.
Right? But do you feel like, I kind of feel like we cut our teeth way more than some other people.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like, that environment was it was not a teeth cutting. It was like a teeth razor sharp
grinder. Period.
Right? What was it? What if you look back on that time, what is it that sticks with you the most?
For me, the reason I loved it so much, because, I worked with a guy named Paul Amelchenko, and Paul used to actually keep a list of all the people that came and gone. Mm-hmm. And he had actually gotten to over 1,000 people. And I'm not talking about a long period of time. I'm talking about a very short period of time, considering mm-hmm. the amount of people. Not a shot, but the fact of the matter is people couldn't fucking cut it. And the environment there suited me because of the way I was raised. Bust your fucking ass. Mm-hmm. Period. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter what fucking day it is. You busted your ass. And at Zimmerman, that's what we did. And that was more than cutting your teeth. That was grinding your ass out every single day.
So true for the people.
So that made me love it, mm-hmm. right? That made me love it. There was no lollygagging around about anything. Mm-hmm. You grinded from the second you walked in that door. Shit, it started before you walked in that door because your phone was blowing up. If there was a problem, you were getting a phone call at 6:30 in the morning. It didn't matter. And then that lasted until whatever time at night.
So for those that might be watching or listening that aren't as familiar with what we're talking about, we started our career here. Excuse me. Here. We started our career here.
You did it before me.
In Fort Lauderdale at Zimmerman Advertising.
Right there.
Well, actually,
That's right there.
No, we started on West Commercial Boulevard.
Yeah.
I still remember driving by there the night that I drove. Well, I was moving from Colorado. I'll get to that. But I had a moving van. I was towing my car. I had a mattress in the back of the moving van that I was sleeping in on the way. And I remember I wanted to just see the office. I drove down Commercial, took a look at it, and I went down to Miami where I was staying. But we started Zimmerman Advertising, which at the time, this was 96, 97. 97 for me.
96, you started in 6. October 96 for me.
Zimmerman was the retail automotive advertising shop. And people could say whatever they want. It was. There was no competition, period. Jordan and Terry were just fucking killing it in the business. And we went to work there about the same time. You start off there as an account executive, a junior account executive making, I think.
Shit, I started lower than that.
Yeah. I started, I think the starting was 18. And I think I might have started at 20.
Shit.
But
Are you crazy?
I think you started lower than that.
Before you continue, okay?
Okay, yeah.
I was pouring concrete. Imagine that, an Italian fucking guy pouring concrete with his uncle.
Right.
When I went and interviewed with Zimmerman, I was pouring concrete with my uncle. And we got in the truck one day. Me and my uncle got in the truck one day. And I didn't realize this, but he had grabbed the classified section. This was,
right.
It's a long fucking time ago.
Yeah, right. The newspaper for a job.
We get in the truck. He throws it in my face. And he goes, on the way to the job, you better look for a fucking career. Now, mind you, and he will tell you, I'll get his ass on the phone right now. He will tell you I'm the best employee he's ever had pouring concrete with him.
I believe
but he knew that I spent 4.5 years at University of Florida for a reason, getting an advertising degree. So he made me look in the classified section that specific day. And there was a tiny little 1x1 ad, and I swear to you this day, 26 years later, I still have that ad.
Do you really?
100% still have that ad. No, you're going like this. I'm talking, it was this big.
Like a stamp.
It was a stamp.
Right.
They were looking for account executives, and I went for my interview. I interviewed with 6 people. They asked me to come back the next day and meet with Jordan. When I met with Jordan, he told me right off the bat, I was in his office for 30 seconds. And he tells me, the position you're applying for is already filled. And again, you can call that man right now, and he will tell you the same thing. My words to Jordan Zimmerman. My interview with Jordan Zimmerman was 60 seconds long. He said that to me, and I said this to him. I said, Jordan, I'll wash the outside of your fucking windows. I just want to get in the door. He goes, you're hired. That's
I did not know that.
60-second interview with Jordan Zimmerman. We fucking walked me out the door, and I was hired, and I started the next Monday.
That's fucking incredible. I did not know that. That is incredible.
So that is how I
You
started.
could not have said, I'll wash the outside of
I'll wash the
window.
outside of your windows. I just want my foot in the door.
Let's call it 12, 15 words.
And he said, you're hired.
Well, you couldn't have said 12 or there was no 12 or 15 words that you could have possibly said that would have been more perfect than those words for him to hear.
You're right.
Like you couldn't have said anything. Not one thing on the planet Earth would have been better than those 15 words for him.
That's right.
That's fucking awesome.
And that was, what, 26 years ago now? 25 years ago.
You're coming up on 25 because you're a year ahead of me.
Because we had this conversation.
Yes, you're 96.
May 23rd, Seth. May 23rd. I'll be 50. That's 6. I'll be 50. And we had this conversation. I will be in this business for half of my life.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and September 24th, I'm 50, and that'll be 24 years for me. So I'm 1 year behind you.
It's kind of like that half a year, though. It's like a 6-month thing.
Whatever. Either way, it is what it is. And so, you start there, and, we start there. We're working at basically, you're there 9-10 months before I get there. And it's like you go into this environment, and you're right. A lot of people would say, "Oh, Zimmerman, there's so much turnover, and there's so much, that was a bullshit excuse in a lot of ways. It's not to say that it might have been rough or whatever, but there were certain people that made it and certain people that didn't. And I feel like during that time when we were there, we learned so much. We were pushed so hard. We had to do shit that we fucking hated. The weekend calls, Saturday, Sunday, every weekend, you're calling your dealers, getting the numbers, which really, if you think about it now, like you could have done having a beer, like whatever. But there was something, I always found like there was this like serious pressure. Like if you don't have your numbers on Monday morning at 7 a.m., you're fucking toast. But that...
And God forbid you show up to that meeting late.
Oh, you didn't. No, I showed up for my first day late. I did, but I didn't know. Like nobody was like, "Hey, we've got a meeting at 7 a.m." Or I think it was 7:30. I think actually the Monday morning meeting was 7:30. I think Jordan and Terry and those guys got there at 7, and then 7:30 was when we came in for the the numbers review. But I know my first my first day there. I mean, I was so clueless. I got dressed. I was living in an apartment. My dad was living in a rented apartment because he had just relocated to Florida to work for the Potamkins. So we're sharing this apartment. I get up, I get dressed. I packed my lunch, literally, in a fucking Playmate, like those red and white, like Playmate.
Like you were going to a construction site.
Like I was going to a construction site. I got this gigantic cooler. Like I couldn't put the cooler in anything. Like there was, like I was walking around and was like, that's not going to fit in the refrigerator, bud. And I didn't know what time to be there. Nobody said. I didn't think to ask.
Well, that makes sense because back then there was no HR department to like tell you how it went.
Yeah, it was raining. I'm driving up I-95 from Miami Beach. I get in there. I walk in. You guys were all in the meeting, and I'm like, I'm here. Fucking cool.
That's awesome.
And then and then we begin, and I'm immediately on Pat Potts. And,
oh my gosh!
And
Sean
who
Potts.
was the girl? She had red hair, kind of I'll think of her name anyway. And she took me under her wing. She was great. And, you start off and you're making no money. You're working all the hours.
Leslie, was it not?
No, it was not Leslie. I was not on Leslie's team. I'll think of the girl's name at some point in time, maybe in another conversation. But you start off there, and you know what? I don't know about you. I fucking loved it. Like even just like, okay, let me get a piece of paper and draw out an ad. Here's the headline, and you got $0 down here and $99 a month here, and you got your cars and stuff. Just that process of starting to like come up with ideas and get it into the system. I loved it.
Yeah, that creative process from scratch. And again, you and I spent a lot of time, separate from each other in the same realm, right? Drawing the same print ads because, look, fact of the matter is, 20 years ago, everybody was in the fucking paper.
Newspaper.
That's what it was.
Yep.
And you took that and you put it into the art department, and off it went, and it became reality. But yeah, it was that hustle and just, look, before I went to Zimmerman, okay, let me take it way back now.
Right.
I left college, and the second I left college, I had a job. My job was at Noble Investments with my cousin Dwight, who you know his name well. I've shared stories with you. Basically, he's not my cousin. He's my brother. 100% my brother. I started working for him right out of college. Monday after I left college, I was working for him as a stockbroker. And I spent 2 years in that. And, it's... I forget where I was going with that. I really did. I actually forgot where I was going. Why was I starting that?
You were thinking about Seth.
That's 7. I don't know why I got into the stock brokerage story.
I don't know. We were talking about how hard it was to work at Zimmerman, and then you were going back a little bit further to your stockbroker job, and you got lost in it.
I totally got sidetracked.
All right, well, let's come back to it in just a second. I think what we're both trying to say, in a sense, is that foundational experience at Zimmerman is priceless. I mean, yes. I know we both know this, and I know it's sort of like an older guy thing to say, of like, you don't understand what it was like back then, and we worked so much harder. But that drive and that excitement of the weekly ad cycle, right? It was like you start off on Monday. How'd the stores do over the weekend? Report the numbers. Okay, boom. Did you have your numbers right? No. If you didn't, you're fucked. Okay, boom. And then it was immediately you're selling. We were selling on Monday morning after that meeting because we always came out and there was somebody that had a killer weekend.
And somebody had a shitty weekend.
Right. And so the killer weekend was like, well, what did they run? Right. Well, they ran Trapped.
Absolutely.
Right? Or they ran this campaign. Trapped 88. And then the next thing you know, you're on the phone telling all your dealers that, hey, this weekend, so-and-so, maybe it was fucking Autoland or what, it didn't matter, Gary or whoever it was. They had a great weekend. This is what they did. This is what we need to do.
And so everything changed.
Every week it was changing. And like you're writing the scripts, and it was always radio. We didn't do much TV then. It was a lot of radio.
It was hardly any TV.
Right?
It was print and radio.
You had to have your scripts, your radio scripts had to be fucking in on Monday, and that was even late, but you were always responding to the weekend results. And then you're moving into the print ads, and then before you know it, Wednesday night into Thursday night, you got all the deadlines coming, and you're cranking, and everyone's there till 8, 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock, 10:30 sometimes on Thursday nights, just getting the last ads out before...
Shit, how many times did you drive to FedEx to get that?
Oh my God, out? Like a fucking maniac. I mean, tell me, how many times...
Driving down 95 at 100 miles an hour to make sure you hit that deadline.
All the time. Right? Like people, it's like, again, we sound like the old timers, like, well, people don't understand. But seriously, like if we didn't get the ads out in FedEx or a package to somebody, God forbid Gary, right?
Oh,
like, right? Like I know he's going to watch this shit.
Yeah.
I know he's going to watch it. I'll get a call from Gary at some point in time.
You've touched both of us.
Love that man. Like that man, Gary alone is one of like the core influencers of my career
Absolutely.
Life, period. But how many times did you drive down I-95 to the airport, to like the FedEx depot,
yep.
to be there by 8 o'clock? What was it, 8, 7, 7:30?
It was like an 8 o'clock deadline.
Like a lunatic just to get your package
just
there
hoping you didn't get pulled over.
Right? And then, now it's like everybody's like, 6 o'clock. Like, and the thing is, it's not even like, hey, work harder, stay later just to work. Like what I feel like a whole generation is missing out on, and it was so exciting.
It was.
It wasn't like you're staying there, oh God, I got to stay at work. It was fucking thrilling to be part of that.
Let me tell you something. When it got to the point in the stock brokerage business where I found out it wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you sit there and you look at the clock, right? And you look at the clock and you go, oh shit, it's only 10 o'clock. And you look at the clock again, yeah, fuck, it's only 1 o'clock. When I went to Zimmerman, I look at that clock and I go, "Are you kidding me? It's
4:30?
1 o'clock. It's 4 o'clock.
Right.
It's 6 o'clock. Are you out of your mind? That's not possible."
Right.
I mean, shit, I do it here, right? But that's something that was ingrained in us because of that. I do it every day, and Seth will sit here and laugh at you. Whatever, that's 7.
7 or 8?
7 or 8.
Okay.
The first thing I do every single morning when I wake up is I grab my phone. This is no joke. I'm not saying it's just to blow smoke up his ass, because he doesn't need that. I go on my email, and the first thing I look at is my bag report. And the reason it's because it's theirs is because that's the one I get. I'm on that list every day to get their sales report every single morning, and every single morning that's the first thing I do is I look at his numbers to see what he did the night before.
Right.
As a combination of all 5 stores broken down, it's an entire spreadsheet of their daily reports.
Now this
and if I got that for every single client, that's the first thing I would do every single day. I'd look at every single email to see what they sold. Why? Because that's how I was fucking brought up in this business.
Right.
That's what mattered.
Results.
Right.
Results. And, you know, it's like, you know, say what you want. You know, people would say, well, Jordan's creative isn't that great, or this or that or the other thing. But I bought into his thing. It's like, it's not about awards for your creative, like going to Cannes and getting
He was
an
never
award.
about that.
You know,
he didn't give a shit
we got
about
the
that.
fucking lion for our you know, and I'm saying this, and I'm going on both sides, because I also understand that they're, you know, the creative input is the creative side of the business. You want to be recognized, so I get that. But from Jordan's perspective, it wasn't about the awards. Are we helping our clients
Right. It was
sell
about
more
the
cars?
results.
Are they selling more cars?
Well, let me again. He never cared about that stuff. But let me tell you something. When I ran that studio and we were pumping out 2,400 spots a day, there was some crazy creative shit in there.
Okay,
You know,
I mean, there's plenty mixed in.
Sure there is, but you know, the people who judge that creativity, you know, maybe they don't dig it, but whatever. That wasn't what we were about. That's not what we're about here. We're about pumping out creative that's going to be results for our clients.
Right. And I will tell you, you know, we've talked about this as well too, and I'm going to put myself way out on the edge here, you know, in the sense that I don't want to discredit digital at all and what's happened in the last 10 years. I mean, there's been a revolution in marketing and marketing communications in every industry, and it's here, it's taken hold, and it works. But I can't remember the last time since the digital realm took over where I got a call from a client on a Monday morning and saying, "We fucking killed it this weekend because of what we did," right? Where when it was just the traditional stuff, and I know, like, I'm putting myself in the dinosaur category. I hope I'm not, but it's just how I feel. There was a more tangible immediacy to the response of what we did during those days, and that was something that I found thrilling. It was like, okay, on Monday morning, either you were scrambling around and taking an idea that had been somewhere else to change,
right,
or you had your own idea. Right, because we all had total liberty to come up with our own stuff. It's not like we had to use somebody else's stuff. Like if you were like, "Hey, man, I came up with this and I'm running it this week," on the following Monday morning, you could be the guy that had the huge weekend based on your idea, right? And that's what was so great about the business at that point in time, is that you came up with an idea, or you took an idea from somewhere else, you put it into action immediately, and there was instantaneous results for the client that weekend.
And look,
That's
sometimes
so
they weren't,
satisfying.
but sometimes they weren't all gems, right?
Oh, you had bombs.
Oh, you bombed. I mean, of
course.
Here, quick story. One of my favorite all-time clients ever, Dan O'Brien. And Dan, I hope somehow, some way you see this podcast,
right,
because he was a huge influence for me in the business, and he was part of the O'Brien automotive team.
Yes.
At Central Illinois, had stores in Fort Myers. His brother did, Joe.
Yep.
But I convinced Danny in 1999, on September 9th of 1999, to run the 9999 sale. And we spent a shit ton of money. We had remotes. We were giving fucking cars away every single day. $9 down, $9, you know, nine, no payments for 9 months, 99. I mean, it was fucking
The whole
99.99.
Right.
September 9th, 1999. TV, radio, remotes, print, you name it, everything. Spent a ton of money. And it's funny because I did talk to Danny probably 2 years ago. We rehashed this conversation, which we do every single time we touch base every couple of years. I mean, when I tell you, this is what got me banned from Central Illinois, because I went there for the sale. Whoops, that was a problem. Because Danny used to run a very successful barn sale. It was called the barn sale, literally at the old barn,
sale.
right?
Yeah.
The old Don Cox, God rest his soul, was our voice talent. And literally after Don Cox passed away, we still used his voiceover to run the spot, right? For the barn sale. And that barn sale killed it every single year. But we ran this $9,999, and I went out there. And when I tell you that he had a stage set up in the front of the dealership, he was giving cars away. Well, there was Brad with his happy ass and his $9,999 fucking idea, sitting on the stage, swinging my legs back and forth, waiting for people to come on the lot, because it was a bomb. I don't know why. I can't tell you. But from that point on, because I had begged Danny, I said, I want to come and run one of your barn sales with you one year. He goes, fuck you. You're not coming here. You're a fucking jinx. And ever, it was 22 years ago.
Right. So it bombed.
It was horrible. We did nothing. He gave cars away. We lost money. It was an absolute disaster. But again, we talked about it 2 or 3 years ago, and we laughed our asses off.
You know, you've told me this story, and I forgot it. And as you're telling me the story again, I'm expecting like the big build-up that this is going to be the biggest sale ever of your career, and it was a total bomb.
Total bomb.
That makes me think of something. I'm looking. You know, Greg calls this my confidence monitor.
17. What is that? What are we counting down?
No, we're pushing up on an hour right now. So anyway,
holy shit!
Yeah, exactly. That's how quick it goes. So it's funny talking. All right,
Seth, you better still be watching.
Yeah. So I'm thinking. I don't know why. It's like you have a drink and then it's like one thought triggers another. So you bombed, right? I remember I was sent to make a presentation to Highland Park Ford. It was a Ford store in Chicago on I guess it's called the North Shore, north of Chicago along the water, like a nice residential community. The dealer was a prominent African American in the area, and they had a beautiful store, and I went to make a presentation. It was an older store. You remember, you got the freaking portfolio,
the
like
portfolio
the gigantic
with the giant mount box.
Yeah, you got your mounts, and then you had a couple of VHS tapes in there.
And some binders.
It was a presentation and like a kickoff. All at the same. I'm confusing my memory, but what I do remember is this. The conference room was in 2 times in my life I presented in a room like this, but the conference room was in a small room up above, like you had to take a wooden staircase up from the service department up to the second level, and there was a small
I've been in those conference rooms.
Small conference room. You know, you got 2 file cabinets in the back corner with like a TV with the VCR in the front, right, and a small table. It's a tight room, right? I don't know, I'm all 27, 28. I don't know what I can't remember at this point in time. And I go in, I got my suit, like I'm fucking dialed in. I got my shit. I got the easel. I got my mount set up, and I got my videotapes. And I make the whole presentation. It's like the dealer and his guys, right? And they're
that's how it was.
Yeah, like what do you got for us? Yeah, what do you got for us? So I make the whole presentation. I'm fired up. I'm, the whole thing. And I finished. They're like, thank you, Chris. We appreciate it. It was great. We'll let you know, right? So I'm, okay. Feeling good about it. Pack all my shit up. Get in. I walk down to the service department. Of course, on the way out, when you go into a dealership, you're always like, hey.
No, to everybody.
You're always like very friendly and like, hey, how you doing? Get out. I open the door. I put my my portfolio in the back seat, and I open the car door, and I just look down, and my zipper's down.
Nice.
And I'm like, I just fucking made an entire presentation with my zipper
fly down.
with my fly down, and it was super apparent. So I get in the car. I'm feeling very humble, and I don't know what brought me. I called him, and I don't remember his name, but I called him and I said, "Hey, so and so." I don't remember his name. I said, "Hey, it's Chris." He said, "Hey, Chris, how you doing?" I said, I was just there. I just made this whole presentation. I got out to the car. I looked down, and I realized my zipper's down. He goes, "Chris, we're going to remember you for a long time."
Did you get the gig?
No. Maybe we did. I can't remember. I can't even remember, but that's all I remember. That line in a deep voice. "Chris, we're going to remember you for a long time."
There's so many of those though in our career, right? So,
but is it now?
I don't know.
It's different now.
It's different, but you still have that. Look, car guys are car guys,
right?
Right. There's always going to be that cynicism of a car guy, and that's what makes it fun for us.
I love them.
Yeah.
I love car guys. I really do. No matter how many times you think, oh, this, that, maybe we could branch out into another field, or we've got this talent.
Why?
I love, right, exactly. Well, because as a business owner, you think, how can we expand and grow the business? So sometimes you think down different avenues. But at the end of the day, I fucking love car people. I love the business. I love the attitude. I love the entrepreneurial spirit. I love the humor. I love the fucking drive that these men and women have. It's just it's the best business to be in for me.
And you and I have been around so many characters, should you say? I mean, come on. The laundry list goes on. However, some of those characters are some very high places right now in the automotive field, and that's cool to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, and if we're throwing names out there, right? Back in the day, David Holt. I'm sorry. I don't know. Is he maybe the CEO of one of the largest automotive conglomerates in the country?
Right. Yeah.
And this was a guy who ran a Toyota store up in Boston, and him and I talked every single day, and you're talking one of the smartest guys in the industry that I've ever known, and I had a blast working with him. And again, you talk about that Boston cynicism, right?
Love it.
But
he's got it. His is razor sharp.
Oh, like an edge. Like an edge. And he's not much different than Sutz is, right? It's the same thing. And that's just, it drives me. I love it. I thrive on it.
Yeah.
Like these guys, it's kind of like my kids. They keep me young. It's the same thing. Like these guys they keep you sharp. You have to be sharp. You have no choice.
No,
or else you get
choice.
fucking chewed up and spit the fuck out in this industry.
Seriously, I know. And so let me just say this, okay? You and I, we've got 100 of these conversations. Like literally, like we could do this podcast 100 times, and every one would be different if we just, we might have a little nip. Sure. And we talk about our experience in what it was to grow up in this business, the retail automotive advertising business, and to be able to work with these men and women in this business. It's truly it's an honor that we've been able to do it and still be able to do it. I still every day I'm like, we're just getting started. Yeah. I never feel like it's kind of come and gone.
No, I
agree. Never
I
feel that way.
It's funny because with my office literally 8 inches of drywall away from where we have these podcasts, I've obviously listened to all the other ones we've had with all of our other crew.
Right.
You didn't ask me what got me in this business. And it's so funny because this is one of the things that I've actually prepared to say.
So funny.
And I didn't get
only
to say
because
it.
we got so much to talk about. It's like I'm like, okay.
When you think about the hours that we could sit here and talk in the days, like it's endless, right? But for me, I was.
Hey, Brad.
Yeah, go ahead.
What got you in the business?
I'm going to say 3 letters and 4 numbers to you. FIN 3408. And I'm going back, whatever, 28 years.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the number of the class that drove me out of the accounting college and into advertising.
FIN.
Finance 3408. I'm almost 50 and I still fucking remember that number.
I believe it.
I signed up for that class. I failed it once because I went to college to go get an accounting degree. You know, the old school, right? We're fucking old. We're 50. You either loved math or you loved English.
Right.
Well, I loved math.
Right. So you figured accounting.
Accounting.
Ugh.
100%. Made it through first couple semesters. Then I got to the semester where I had to take FIN, Finance 3408. And I failed that fucking class once. I went to take it again. And I got halfway through the semester. And I said, fuck all you. And I went into the College of Advertising and Journalism. And that's what got me into the advertising world.
Thank God for that.
FIN 3408.
Thank God for FIN 3408.
I will never forget that number.
Let's pause there.
Okay.
That's a good place to pause. FIN 3408. The literal numbers, letters and numbers that drove you to this moment.
Out of the accounting field and into advertising.
Cheers to that, man.
Cheers, brother. Salute.
Love you, bro.
I love you. I appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to
we got a million
conversations.
We got a million.
However many more of these.
You want to start another one in 5 minutes?
We could.
I got to get home.
Thank you, Chris. It's been a pleasure, and I thank you for everything you've done.
You got it, man. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks.
Awesome.